Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're back on GT Sport and we're back with the FIA Manufacturers Top 24 final round in Season 2 of the Manufacturers Championship. You can see there going onto the grid, it was a standing start for this grid obviously, and P1 TRR Lightning in the Nissan. This grid was pretty much made up of all the cars that are faster in top speed, like the Ferrari, the Dodge Viper, the Nissan, the Ford, etc. These cars are all the more powerful cars down the straight line, so pretty obvious they were going to be at the front of the grid. Also some of the best drivers on the game as well, and you see there Ferraris and McLaren 6 there in the Corvette. Also another very strong car at this track, and obviously Callum Jones in the Ford, probably the strongest car for this track in terms of outright speed. I don't reckon the fuel was probably the best though when you compare it to like the Corvette and the Lexus. They had better ability to save fuel in this race. P8 there, the Lexus, you can see a lot of these cars just pretty much a power grid. You can see all the way down the grid to P9 so far. It's just been cars that are really fast in a straight line. Jonas also, the Jaguar, very fast car in a straight line. And then we get to some of the other cars that are not so fast in a straight line but still reasonably okay. And obviously the Evo and P12 there, Fab, Oscaro Fab. And all down in 13th there in the Subaru, Jamie. Reasonable job in that car. It's not probably the best car for this track. P14 the other Corvette, I did expect that Corvette to be a little bit higher up the grid than that. Myself obviously in the Mercedes, my qualifying run I did 2 laps. First lap was just a base lap, second lap I got a penalty and missed out on probably about P13, 14, would have been around Jamie's lap I think, but I wasn't too worried because I didn't expect to get into this top 24 race, to be brutally honest. I hadn't practiced for it really. I'd done a little bit of warm up before the Nations race, the 24 race that I watched on Disney Stream. Didn't expect to get in the top 24 race. I just entered it just in case I got in there, because you've got 2,000 bonus points, so no matter what it was going to be a win-win situation for me no matter where I came in this race. So wasn't too worried about practicing too much, just as long as I got the points. Obviously this season's all about just getting your S-rated license for the official season, which I've now got anyway. So Season 3 is the important one, which we're going to concentrate on hopefully from today onwards pretty much. So starting from a standing start, obviously traction control on the weakest setting. That's how I do my starts with the Group 3 cars. Traction control on the weakest setting, and then just release it as you start hitting higher revs. You're going to see now I go straight to traction control, weakest setting, rev it out max, and I get an okay start, and then I take it off about now, off there, and then look at the extra boost I get from doing that. Gives you the real shoot forward in second gear, and I actually get a really good start going past I've got the Lexus on the right hand side, but there's no point me diving up too far. I just go down left hand side with this space, brake nice and early. I don't want to hit any of these cars in front, but this guy, the driver here, this tanker driver, just pushed straight through. It was disgusting driving. I really wasn't happy about that, and I got a 5-second penalty because he decided to push through. Not nice to see. You know, this is a 24 stars race and it's lap 1. Watch how he does this. He just goes straight through and he just pushes straight, he just barges straight through. He's not bothered. No respect for other drivers in this race. You know, lap 1, I didn't like that, but not much I could do about it, and obviously he got the 5-second penalty, which is not what I wanted to get at the start of an 8-lap race at Le Mans. Obviously at this stage of the race it's not a massive issue, but it could become an issue as we progress in the race. Obviously, you know, if I pick up 5 more seconds in the next 8 laps, I'm gonna have to start backing off and getting rid of a penalty, and that's not what you want to be doing in these races. You know, that's what really wound me up, you know, going into turn 1 doing that kind of move. But looking at the race now, see everyone picking up a slipstream. I'm picking up the guy that's just gone through in the corner, his slipstream, having a little look. Now I could have been really aggressive here and just got my own back. Had a little look on the inside, decided to back out of that and not go for it. It wasn't worth the risk. I didn't want to ruin my own race as well as this, because I've got a 5-second penalty. You know, if I try to go for a move and I get another penalty, I'm gonna have to start backing off them at the back of the grid. And this race, 8 laps obviously in the top 24 race, not the 6 laps that was in the normal race. And the strategy that we had to run for this race didn't really suit Mercedes. It was a one-stop strategy, so a lot of fuel saving. I know a lot of people don't like this, but this is the way that Polyphony are running these races. They're making it so that one stop is pretty much the way to go for this, because the time to fuel up is quite long, and also the pit entry at this track was really, it took a lot of time to do, and the one stop made more sense. So you'll find the one stop strategy was definitely the fastest way. It's what won the race. I think all the top drivers did one stop. I was going for a one-stop strategy. So you're going to see a lot of fuel saving straight away and very short, really short shifting, which doesn't really suit the Mercedes because its speed is a little bit higher up in the rev range. It doesn't really pull very well low down in the gears. As you can see there, I decided to let, there was no point me battling too hard with these. I was trying to be quite tactical straight away, letting drivers go through and then I'll just pick up their slipstream and save fuel. It was the safest way to do it, and that's how my plan was, to try and use helping each other basically to push further up to the front drivers. At the moment though, in P16 I was happy with that, started P18 or 19 I think it was, so made some places up and I'm doing okay, to be really honest. I got a nice start, it could have been a bit better without the driver in front of me, what he did to me. Again, I go to the left hand side and he just cuts that move off, so I go to the right hand side, and again I was so tempted to just throw myself inside, but I decided to back out of it. You can see I can't risk getting any penalties. I've got 4 seconds there already. This was obviously before the update, before the new tyre model and the further improvements that have been made with the penalty system. I think there's now the system that's in play now, even if it doesn't give you a penalty, it can still affect your safety rating. So I kind of like that, because even if people think, if there's contact made and they know they're not going to get a penalty from that type of contact, it can still affect their safety rating, and also it can affect the decision whether you get kicked out of the room, whether they've altered that as well, I do not know. But in this race, P16, just trying to hold on to slipstreams really and save some fuel. This race was just all about the saving of the fuel. As you see, I do love that camera angle on the ones. It looks so good as the cars go through there and flying pretty much as fast as they can, apart from the fuel saving that's going on. I knew that Mercedes, one good thing about the Mercedes was the tyre wear. However, Le Mans just doesn't really use much tyre wear up at all, because it's mainly straights. It did start kicking in a little bit on lap 4, but nothing drastic. It wasn't enough to really affect the car. The fourth lap, I did one practice run at doing this strategy, because I did a practice run with TRR Lightning before it earlier in the day, and McLaren 6 was in there, and he went on the one-stop strategy and beat Lightning, and that's why we knew the one-stop was definitely the way to go. He beat him comfortably as well, because of the strategy. He made a mistake of going in that, because I think without him doing that, I think Lightning would have gone on the two-stop strategy, but he was obviously going on the one-stop strategy as well because of that, and I knew that before the race. But I wasn't sure if everyone would know that. I did already try that strategy, but I felt like it lost too much time, but I hadn't really timed the pit stop entry, and that's because I didn't have time to go through it and work it out. But that's where the one stop came into play, was because the pit stop was just so long. You can see everyone now in single file and driving reasonably okay. No one's really making too many errors. Top 24 race, and some really good drivers in this lobby. I'm doing okay at the moment. I've made some places up. The Mercedes was pretty weak here. We know the Mercedes' strengths are not straight line speed. It's one of its weaker parts. It's pretty much equal to the Porsche and the I'd say the Renault in terms of its straight line speed, but it has really good traction and grip on the tyres, obviously, so the tyres don't wear out too much. But its other weakness is fast corners, and there's a lot of fast corners at Le Mans, so really didn't expect much going into this track, and that's why I wasn't too worried about how this race went. It was just a case of getting them 2,000 bonus points and then the triple points, just to get a little bit higher up on the leaderboard. This season's not really relevant, as far as I can tell from the rules. Season 1 and 2 have no relevance at all. All they're there for is just getting your S license, because to be in the top 24 races in the official season, you have to have the S license, otherwise you're not going to be in them. So that's why it's only the top 10 drivers that can actually compete for this title, really, in each manufacturer now that got top 10 in season 2. If you didn't get top 10 in season 2, you can't get in the top 24 races. There's no way of doing it, and unless you've got in the top 10 for your country and nations and got the S license that way. As you can see, battling with one of the Oscar drivers, I think it was Indian food there in the BMW. I just let him go because there was too much of a gap for me to catch the car in front without a slipstream. Obviously I got to do fuel saving, so I let him through just so I could then get back into his slipstream behind him, because I know the BMW is a fast car, so it made more sense for me to just let him pass, get onto his slipstream and let him carry us forwards. And I was quite willing to work with him if he was going to let me. I'd go past him and then let him back past. I was quite willing to do this with any drivers in this race, just to work together to push ourselves further up the grid. There was quite a lot of Oscaro drivers in this race also. There was quite a few of them, but mainly there wasn't really many in the top 10. They were mainly a little bit further back, as you can see, picking that slipstream up, not deciding to make a move there, because it wasn't really worthwhile. I know that the best idea for myself now to make my fuel last, which was really going to be an issue because it's not the best car. I know the Ferrari is very good at saving its fuel. I worked that one out when I went the Ferrari in the pre-season. The Group 3 Ferrari was very good at saving fuel and keeping speed. You could short shift it and it would keep accelerating reasonably well. So I knew that the Ferrari was able to do the one-stop strategy, but I knew that for me to do it in the Mercedes, I've got to be very tactical and just use slipstreams and just short shift as much as possible. Obviously I'd done the test run, and the only way I got it to do it was by pretty much shifting as soon as the light showed on the bar for your shift bar. But I knew that it was possible, but I didn't think it was going to be the fastest way when I did that test until we did obviously the test run with McLaren 6. You can see everyone going through here now, Ferrari behind me, BMW in front, and the BMW is actually not a bad car. I think a lot of people aren't using it now, but I think it's actually a better car than what the amount of people using it shows, because I've seen some people doing some really fast times in that Suzuka and stuff, and it's just a little bit heavy, etc., but it's got some really good acceleration and top speed on that car. I can tell when following Oscaro that it's definitely a nice car, but obviously now we've had the new Ford, which has pretty much turned Group 3 cars, as far as I can tell, into a single make series now. And that's because the Ford now, the new GT40 LM, it's like a test car, it's the Group 3 cars, it's just so overpowered. It does confuse me how they've managed to get it so wrong. I did a very quick test at the new track for the qualifying session. I did a little go with the Ford and then tried to see how close I could get to just the first sector in the Mercedes in the car I'm in now, and I was nearly I think it was about half a second down on the Ford's time. It was insane the speed. As you can see, going into the corner, this was such a stupid mistake. I clipped the grass on the left hand side and the car just drifted through. Luckily held the drift and didn't lose too much time, but I've lost Oscaro in the slipstream, which was really frustrating because he was dragging me along quite nicely, and now I've got to use the Ferraris again and just drop a place down, so down to P18. A little bit disappointed with that. Also picked up a penalty there, which took my penalty over nearly to 7 seconds, which was a little bit annoying because I didn't gain any time. And whether they could do something with that, I know on one of the grid games, I think it was Grid Autosport, if something like that happened and you didn't gain an advantage and the game could tell that through your previous laps, it could tell whether you had gained any advantage and stuff. It wouldn't give you any sort of slowdown. Whether they could incorporate that into GT Sport, it would kind of make sense, because for that instant I lost 2 seconds and picked up I think it was about a 2-second penalty. But now having a little look on the left hand side, picking up slipstream, but I can't really go through that. Ferrari so fast down the straight, it wasn't worth risking that into the corner, and I'll try and get past him in a safer place and not just throw it up the inside there. If he turns in, I've got to be so careful now. I had to really be cautious pretty much with any contact with any car from now on to the end of the race, because as soon as the penalty system, the penalties are close to 7 seconds, one more instant will put me into a situation where I've got to start backing off and lose, and you don't want to be backing off the power at Le Mans. It's one thing that will ruin your race. But even then, P18, as we go past 2 cars that have battled away and they've had an issue, and that's put me back up to P16. So I thought I could still pick up some alright points here because people are battling away and making mistakes, and I'm back into P16 even with the drift that happened, and obviously lost that slipstream. Up to that point the race was going okay. I was having a reasonably okay race. It was pretty much as expected, fuel saving, picking up slipstreams, and then another car's had a penalty, and it looks like one of the Oscaro, I think it was Indian Food, something's happened there, and they've had to back off as well. Now I'm up to P14, so it was just getting better at this stage. I was thinking there could be some good points here. If I can get close, if I can hold on to a P14 position, I would have been really happy, because the Mercedes was probably, along with I would think, the Renault at this track, the RS01, I think, were the weaker cars in this race. Pretty much the whole grid was made up of the fastest cars in the game, and that does show you that speed is important with these cars, because this is a manufacturer series. It's the top cars within the championship, and they're all very fast cars. There should have been a Porsche in this as well, but the driver that was driving the Porsche didn't have his S-rated license. I think he will now have it for the official season, but he didn't have it for this, and nor did his teammate. So that's why I was able to, I think, along with the fact that I think a few drivers didn't turn up for the race, might have been away for whatever reason, that's how I managed to get into this. And I I did realise that they wouldn't be racing it, but still I was about 2 places down, I think, from getting in this race. So there must have been 2 drivers that just didn't race it, didn't bother doing it, and that's why I ended up in the top 24 race. So I'll take that. And you can see a lot of drivers pitting now at the end of lap 3, and this is why unfortunately I would have liked to have been a bit further up, but even then I'm into P9. It's probably going to change as we go through the straight. You see there one of the drivers coming out, and that's TRL Ferraris. I actually didn't expect him to be on the strategy of the 2-stop, but he's on that strategy, and not necessarily the best strategy. He's going to come. He's probably going to, easily beat ourselves in this group, because he's coming out already behind us, and his next pit stop will be much shorter in terms of when I go in the pits. I've got to change my tyres and fill up the car maximum. But everything's going okay at this stage. Doing reasonably well. I made that one horrible error, which bumped my penalty up, obviously, to 7 seconds. But I was doing a reasonable job with cars that are much faster down the straights than mine. I've got the Ferrari in front, I've got the BMW and the Lexus, and I'm not sure if there was a Hyundai in the race also, which is really fast. But mainly cars that are good down the straights compared to the Mercedes. So now I've just got to really concentrate on not really getting involved with battles. I couldn't really afford to battle drivers too much, and you can see lifting off a little bit there. I think I just backed off just to let them through, and actually got rid of a little bit of a penalty. I think maybe like a 10th or 2, but I decided to back off and just let them through and then pick up the slipstream. I couldn't risk going side by side because of obviously that lap 1 incident with the tanker, I think it was, just pushing his way through with no respect. He then give me a 5-second penalty, I think it was instantly, or 6 seconds, 5 seconds, I can't remember exactly what it was. But from then onwards, you're on the back foot, and that's the issue that I had in this race. Was just I had to be so careful, because everyone will know how easy it is to pick up a penalty at this track from either a corner cut or even contact with other cars. You've got 24 other cars on this grid in this race, so there was no way I was getting involved with any battles. Like I've got Ferraris now behind me. So again, he's on a different strategy than me, so there was no point me holding him up. He's on a 2-stop strategy. He's changed his tyres. He's got fresh tyres on. He's able to rev his car maximum. And just look at the speed difference down the straight when he's revving that car. There was no point me fighting that. And he's one of the fastest drivers in the game. So when he comes up, I was just going to pretty much lift off and let him pass. Change the fuel mixture and try and let him again, because I've lost the slipstream with the drivers in front. Just let him help me get back closer to them drivers up ahead for when I go in the pits. It was the best thing for me to do. So you can see he's picking up that slipstream, getting faster and faster. I can't really defend them against that. I'm going to take my normal line through there, but then stick over to the left hand side, let him through, and just let him down that inside. Lift it off. I was going to lift obviously down to 2 mixture, just let him get ahead, and now just try and hold on to his slipstream as he's got really aggressive in there, and he's going to catch them cars up in front, so he can drag me along to them a little bit. If I can just stay behind him in fuel mixture 2, it'll help save some of my fuel, obviously, because that fuel is getting very low. You can see only 3% fuel left, and I've got to get to the end of this lap to change the fuel, so I did need to do some fuel saving to make sure I got there without running out before I even get to the pit lane. It could have been dangerous, if I would have ran out just before. It would have wrecked the race. But in position 12, obviously I'm going to lose some of these positions as some of the cars behind me have pitted already. They're on a 2-stop strategy, but it seemed like I think about a third of the grid was on the 2-stop strategy, and pretty much 2/3 were going for the 1-stop strategy. Obviously I'd realised how long the pit lane entry loss was, and just decided the safer way to do it. It was a little bit safer also for getting penalties. It wasn't as easy if you're driving 100%, maxing the car out. It's a lot easier to pick up penalties driving like that. As you can see now, all the top 3 drivers in the pits on lap 4. It shows you that this was the way to go. You see, I think he actually might have hit the wall then in front of me, but it looks like he got away with it. Going in with 2% fuel, some drivers on 4%, and Lightning on 9%, done a really good job there with his fuel. Obviously been saving fuel in slipstreams. This is what I'm saying though, there's just no way I could have got this Mercedes to drive at the speed that the top front drivers were driving and save the amount of fuel that I'd need to save. So I'm reasonably happy with how this race is going so far. I'm in an okay position. I'm going to drop down after this pit stop, probably back down to P18 or something like that. But then the other drivers are then going to pit again. And I've got some cars around me. I know I went in the pits pretty close, and I decided to max the fuel out. There was no point in me under fueling at all, because I want to be able to drive this as fast as I physically can with doing 4 laps on this run. But in P17, the NSX behind me, another car that's not going to be great at this track. Obviously, it's not got a massive amount of straight line speed. It's more about its handling. You know, it's a similar car to the RS01, the Porsche and stuff like that. They're better through the corners than they are on the straight lines. So now P16 there, Oscaro Stefanzi, I think it is, a little bit too far ahead for me to pick up any slipstream. So again, I've got to be quite tactical and kind of let P18 get closer to me, so that I can then use his slipstream. It's a hard one to do. I was trying to drive as fast as I could, but save quite a bit of fuel so that he can just catch me up, and then I can just pick up their slipstream. Because I felt like if I could work with a couple of cars, we could all get closer to that battle up front, which has got a good few cars in it, and then you've got a chance of battling all together for maybe P13 and 14. Whether other cars wanted to do this was going to be a different story. I don't think everyone wanted to do that. They obviously just wanted to battle their own race, which is fair enough. I was just trying to think tactically and think possible of, you know, getting a better position out of this race. But you can see everyone's got penalties. I think I'm not too sure if anyone actually finished this race with no penalties. I'm not too sure. It's possible. We'll have a little look as we go to the finishing line, see if anyone's not got the red dot. But more than likely, the majority of people in this race was going to have some form of penalty. So I knew at the finishing line, if we were close to any other drivers, we might be able to make up some places if we don't pick up too much penalties. But obviously, I've got a 6-second penalty to get rid of. Also, I've managed to get it down from 6.8 to 6.2 by just lifting it. You know, when we were battling with cars, I was just letting them through if they were on my inside instead of battling and fighting with them. So losing some of the penalties that way. Now you can see there P18's in the slipstream in that NSX. So these drivers can start getting involved. You got Oscaro Sky Pilkman in the Lexus, which was quite surprised that car was that far down, because that car's fuel saving is so good. You can short shift that and get good speed out of it. It looks like he might have had some sort of issue in this race, unless he went for a 2-stop strategy. I really don't know. I'd be surprised if he did, because he pretty much never uses fuel in his races. He just saves it all the way. So I would have been surprised if he was on a 2-stop strategy. Maybe he was one of the drivers that we went past when he was in the gravel with an incident, so that'll be why he possibly lost some speed. So letting him through on the right hand side, and then trying to just tuck him behind him and hoping that he can then drag me along to them other cars up ahead. So this was the plan. That's why I didn't fight that too much. I just saved the fuel, put it to mixture 2, let him pass, and hope that he can drag me along to these other cars. Because even, you know, P18, I wasn't devastated with this position, because there really wasn't much you can do in the slower cars on this track. It's all about power, and it's all about having your peak power a little bit lower down in the revs, that all so you can short shift. That's why the Lexus is very good at this track, and also the Corvette. The Corvette was probably the best track car you could get at this track, because you can just change gears pretty much straight away, just shift, and it will keep accelerating because of the way the torque is on the car. As you can see, all cars going through there, NSX behind me, pushing really hard, not really going to get past at this point of the track. No, he was putting pressure on, but I was just trying to tuck him behind that Lexus and just try and hold on to the slipstream. I was really being cautious not to run too far wide on that corner. A lot of drivers you'll see go really far out wide on that. There is a way of kind of abusing the track limits on that corner by running really far wide, but you can't clip the apex of the corner. If you do it, you've got to just completely miss the apex, and then it won't give you a penalty. But I was trying my hardest to keep it in its limits pretty much all the time. As you see, going through that section for me was really good. I'm reasonably good in the Ford through there as well. You can see the gap I've managed to get ahead there of the NSX. I like the flow of that last little section, and I got in a rhythm of doing that when I was in the Mustang, the Ford, and it also seems to work quite well in the Mercedes as well, because probably because it's so stable, the car, you can really chuck it from right to left, you know, slow speeds, and it just sticks to the ground. So just trying to hold on to the Lexus in front of me, use his slipstream, and try and get the best result we can so far. The race was going reasonably well so far. I can't really complain. It's just that penalty that I had from the start that's kind of going to be a little bit of an issue, or it could be an issue if I pick up any sort of penalties at all in this race, because Le Mans is known for its penalties, so you don't want to be starting lap 1 with a 5-second penalty straight away. Maybe now that they've brought the new system in where not all contact will result in a penalty, from what I read in the update, little contacts, obviously they're going to get rid of the severity of these now as well. So where you used to still get the 10 seconds and the 5 seconds, I think they're reduced now to 1 and 3 seconds and stuff like that. So maybe the penalties might not play as much of an influence still. So hopefully it's an even bigger improvement on what was already an improvement anyway. I mean, if this race was done a few months ago, this would have been a disaster, but luckily there was a patch. You see, getting the slipstream again off Oscaro, and I thought he was going to work along with me, but I think what possibly put him off of letting it working together was the fact that the NSX tried to go up the inside there, and I think he just braked late and tried to hold it around the outside, which was it seemed a bit pointless because we were both just going to lose time there, and I had to back out off the throttle, just about get back into his slipstream, but I expected him just to let me through there and tuck him behind me, but whether he couldn't because the NSX, I'm not too sure. It would have made more sense just for us three to work together and try and get ahead, obviously catching up to the cars in front. You can see there's a group of cars not too far up, so if we would have worked together we possibly could have caught them up. He let me through that time. I had the inside into fuel mixer 2 and then onto the straight into fuel mixer 1, and I've got to just short shift, and this is where you're going to see the difference between obviously certain cars. You can see I think now behind me the Oscar driver is saving fuel, but look at the speed, he's picking up that slipstream, he's just going to breeze past me. Not much I can do in the Mercedes, it's not the fastest car in the straight line, so you see the NSX also taking advantage, so I've got to let the NSX through as well because he's there and he actually goes through the Lexus. Obviously I don't know how he knew that would happen because I don't think the NSX had a penalty, so a bit of a risky move, but he went straight through him, and maybe he should have just went down the right, because if that penalty, if that would have contact would have happened then, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe it's because I'm wondering if the car's flashing like the penalties are flashing above Oscaro's car, it's flashing on and off. I'm wondering if that means their car's going to ghost, because he seemed to know that his car would ghost then, so that's interesting. Maybe that's what means the car's going to ghost. So whether that's changed in the latest patch, I do not know. We need to test that thoroughly. But you can see there, RC Zocchi actually in the pits. So he obviously went for a two-stop strategy and is making that work. He's obviously burnt that fuel away. Short fueled up. You can see also TX3 Adam pitting in P2. Lightning takes the lead. But obviously Lightning's now got to do fuel saving. So that's fairly interesting. I didn't know Zocchi had done a two-stop strategy. But he's obviously managed to make it work somehow, obviously with the extra speed that he'd have with the fresh tyres, and obviously being able to use the full speed of that Dodge Viper, which is an extremely fast car down the straights, and probably one of the fastest cars I think in an actual straight line. It's up there with the Mustang and that. You can see now into P16, whether that's just going to be I'm not sure if there's someone in the pits now and I'll drop back down, but P16, obviously some cars have still got just pitted and they're going to have fresh tyres and probably going to be able to catch myself up. But doing okay in the race. You can see I'm actually only at this point of the race, I'm under 20 seconds behind TRL Lightning, so not doing a bad job at all really in the Mercedes. Considering probably by lap 1 I was probably about 10 seconds behind them or something like that. So not lost a massive amount of time and doing a reasonably good job even with that massive slide. It shows you how competitive this race was really, that is the gap at this stage on lap 7. You know, only very short gap to the leaders, and they're not too far up, and it really, I didn't even know that when I was racing. Obviously just looking at it now, seeing how close it was, but I've actually lost the slipstream to the drivers up front. You can see as I think it's Jamie there goes past, because I had to lift off, because as I went through that corner, you saw it, I picked up a penalty for the slightest little cut. It was just, I must have just took an inch extra off it. It didn't really gain me any time, but it gave me a 5-second penalty, which put me over 10 seconds, and I had to back off. And again, I've ran wide through that corner. You're going to see it again now. It's going to go over 10 seconds, so I have to lift, because if I don't lift, it'll start increasing. So I have to get rid of that again. Just got it under 10 seconds. And this is the frustrating thing, because without that penalty on lap 1, I wouldn't be in this situation now. And it's a little bit annoying that, you know, that's 2 lifts that I've had to do there, mainly because of the penalty that I got on lap 1. Jamie probably was just going to catch me up anyway. He had fresh tyres on, full fuel, and maybe I should have gone more that way. And again, I couldn't work out why I got that penalty. I got a little bit of a rear loose end, held it, and maybe the rear, when it whipped out a bit, went over the track limits, and it gave me another penalty. I had to back off again. So in the space of one lap I've had to back off 3 times, and it's lost me about 4 or 5 seconds. You can see on the Delta I'm now 23 seconds behind the leader. I was only about 18, so it's lost me about 4 or 5 seconds just on that little stretch of road. And again, I was really wound up at this stage. Went into the corner with the slipstream, braked too late and into the gravel, so lost even more position. So pretty much a disaster lap, but you know, I was annoyed, but it wasn't really that bad because I was always going to pick up more points than any other Mercedes driver in this race because no one else was in the top 24 race. So now down to P21, and the reason I was a bit frustrated was because I drove well enough without that penalty at the start. I would have been around P14 or battling. I think I would have been battling between P13, 14, and 15. That's the positions I would have been battling for. But now I'm down into P21 through not really a fault of my own. Going into turn 1, you don't expect someone to, from the back of the grid, just to dive through like that. I expected everyone to be really respectful. Top 24 race. I think it was being recorded by some other YouTubers that are working for Polyphonic. I expected to be a bit more respect in this race, but clearly I shouldn't have really expected that. There's always going to be that one driver that just doesn't care and wants to just go through and win the race on that one. And quite funny, he's the driver that's now in P22. So that tactic clearly didn't work for him. He's ruined his own race probably, as well as kind of ruined my race, because I think without that 5-second penalty I wouldn't have got to the stage of getting the 10-second penalties and then having to lift all the time. But now coming up to the final lap, you can see main aim now is to battle with this Renault. Obviously the Renault, again, another car that is not really going to be a strong car at this track. He's got no straight line speed, it uses a lot of fuel. So it's the only other car I can really have a battle with now. The other cars are a little bit further ahead. We're not going to be able to catch up with them unless they make a mistake, because the Renault is not fast enough to hook onto their slipstream. And also Oscaro Indy Food into the pits. Looks like he's run out of fuel, or I don't know what's happened there, because he's pitting right at the end. And that's put me up to P20th now. I think that puts Oscaro's now last in that BMW, so he's not having the best of race either. And at least I'm not finishing last. That's the main thing to take from this. But like I say, I think I had the race plan, the race strategy was going well. I think I had the strategy to get myself at least into the top 15. I think between P12 and 15 would have been an expected result from this, but it's obviously not going to be. And again, just being careful not to run wide on that corner. It's so strict, the limits on this track, and comparing it to iRacing. On iRacing you can get away with so much more on this track than you can on GT Sport. I think I've actually got a race on iRacing at this track, and you'll see the difference on the track limits. You can push so much faster around the corners and you don't pick up any penalty. It feels a little bit more enjoyable, but I would like them to loosen it a little bit, the limits on certain corners. Maybe not all corners, but just there's a few situations which I think are a little bit too extreme, which you can't always help, because like there you kind of want to go to the curb because the curb's there for the apex of that curb. You want to hit it, but sometimes if you go a little bit too far right, it will give you that penalty, and you have to obviously lift off if you've got the penalties like I've got. But picking up the slipstream now from that Renault, he's obviously knows that I'm going to get past him on the straight. I think he wasn't going to battle anyway. It looked like he put his hazards on, so I think he's doing what I was doing, just trying to see if we work together to catch the drivers up front. We're getting very close to P18 there. Oscar and Monsoon, obviously in that Citroen, another car that's clearly not been too great at this track. So the Renault obviously struggling with fuel as well. Probably wanted to let myself through so that he could pick up the slipstream and save some fuel. My fuel looks reasonable at this stage. It says there 12% fuel left, so that should, I was thinking that should be enough, but I decided to let him back through there because this is the final lap and I didn't really want to be in the lead at this stage. I wanted to get past the Renault now. This is where I wanted to get back past the Renault and then try and hold him off to the end. I wanted to just beat that Renault on track before the finish line. I knew I had to lift off before the finish line anyway, but I wanted to just try and at least not finish without battling to the end. I wanted to just push the end. So again, picking up his slipstream, looks like he's let me through there. This is where I wanted to pass because I think this is the safest place to get an overtake done. I think the next opportunity is before the really fast right hand corner, and that's not always the easiest place to overtake. So I go into fuel saving now because I'm going to try and just rev it out a little bit harder now on this next part of straight and just try and defend against him a little bit, trying to see if I could pick up that slipstream also from the car in front, but just too tempted away from picking it up. But you can see now in one mixture, and I'm just going to rev it a little bit more than what I was before, not changing gears so early. That Renault is picking up the slipstream, but you can see he's not really picking it up fast enough. He is gaining on me, he's gaining, he's getting closer, but he's too far back to really make a move. And he had a little look, but he wasn't able to do that. The Renault is very fast through these corners, but it's not a place you can actually make an overtake through here now. So his next opportunity is going to be in one of the chicanes. Whether he'll be able to do it, we'll have a look now. Going through that sector on actually a blue sector, so my personal best, because obviously I had so many instances on the other laps where I had to lift off and made the mistakes in the gravel. And again, he got really close through there, but no way he can make a move. And it looks like he's pretty much given up on that now as we're coming to the finishing line. And I'm in P19 at the moment, but I've got to back off and get rid of that penalty. I think a lot of other cars are going to have penalties to get rid of. The car in front of me hasn't got a penalty, looks like he's got rid of his. So I start getting rid of mine straight away pretty much. Renault's got to get rid of his. Got a long way to go to get rid of all that penalty, nearly 9 seconds. And I just about managed to finish ahead of the RSO one. It looks like he had a bit more penalties than me to get rid of. So P19 out of 24 drivers. Could have been worse, but it should have been better really. I think if you look at Sky Pilkman, I was battling with him, and also P12 at one stage in Jamie. If I could have held onto his slipstream, I think it would have been hard. Obviously he would have had speed, but I think anywhere from P12, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is where I really should have been placing, if I wouldn't have made one mistakes on my behalf. But you can see 4,334 points. I can't complain. It could have been a lot better obviously, but you know, the issue was that lap one, picking up that penalty really did affect my race, because you then have to drive more cautious all the way through, and then I had to start lifting on straights, letting cars pass because I was over 10-second penalty, and it just turned into a bit of disaster. But not too worried, still got my S license, and season 3 is the season where we really need to concentrate and try and get the results in. So hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to be back with obviously all season 3 soon, and obviously some daily races. Not too sure how we're going to do these daily races now with them being weekly. I'm a little bit disappointed that they've done it like this, because I think it's a good idea. I agree with the weekly races if they're going to add more races in and give us some endurance races and more variety. But keeping 3 races on there, I can only imagine how bad it's going to be if we have a situation where we've got an oval and another track that I don't like. It's going to be a case of not wanting to do any races. You know, a whole week of an oval, I can't imagine how boring that would be. But we'll see if they're going to add more options in there, give us more races. They need to do something, because I don't think too many people are going to be happy with racing some of these tracks for a whole week. I understand some people's view that it's it's good for them because they can't get on all the time. That's fine, but that's why we need more variety then, because there are other drivers that want to race different, race every day, and to race the same track every day in the same series, it gets a bit boring. They could go down like an iRacing route, but not to the extremes of iRacing. I think just 5 or 6 different races for the week is fine. That would be fine. At least you could race a different race at least every day then, and then you got the FIA races to split it up. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Hit that notification button so you don't miss any future videos, and I'll be back very soon. Thanks again for watching.